Okay, I think we've got everything set and ready to roll. Just making sure that we're getting all of the audio and video. And welcome, everybody. Welcome to the show tonight. My name is Brian Schott. I am the publisher and managing editor of Utah Political Watch. You'll find me online at utahpolitics.news. You can sign up for my newsletter there. You can support what I do as an independent journalist. We'll get to all that in a second, but there's a lot to talk about tonight in the universe of Utah politics. As I said earlier, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, feel free to leave them in the chat, and we will get to those this evening. There's a lot that I want to talk about tonight. I'm sure there's a lot that you want to talk about tonight as well. So welcome in, everybody. We are live tonight on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We are on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And I want to hear from you. I want to hear what's on your mind as the Utah legislature is continuing with their 2026 session. We've got some developments in the redistricting saga, the ongoing redistricting saga that has the potential to completely upend what we've been doing. So anyway, all of that is fair game tonight. Let's talk about what you want to talk about. I've also got a bunch of stuff that I want to talk about tonight as well. Nathan Detroit, who is one of our subscribers to Utah Political Watch, he is watching tonight on Twitch. Hi, Nathan. Nathan is one of the people who chats with us in our Discord, and you can get into our Discord if you become a paying subscriber to Utah Political Watch. Just go to utahpolitics.news. It's $5 a month. And you get subscriber-only newsletters, you get access to our Discord, and all sorts of good stuff. So let's get into it tonight on this Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026. We're already starting here. Solus, I can't see your entire username. Maybe if I pop out the chat, I'll be able to see it a little bit better. But says, do you think they'll try to bring back the ban on collective bargaining? I doubt that they'll bring it back this year. They just repealed it. I would be surprised if they did, simply because they really were embarrassed by the coalition of union organizations that put that repeal on the ballot, especially when you see what is happening with the the ballot initiative to overturn Prop 4, because they are struggling to get signatures. And we'll go over those numbers, but just quick thumbnail. They've got 12 days left to collect and turn in signatures. They're not even at 50% of the statewide goal yet. They've only crossed the signature requirement in 2 districts. I've been trying to track this for you every single day. It's not looking great. I know that they have a big blitz of signature gathering events coming up over the weekend. Somebody emailed me that they're having a big one in Provo. That's actually tomorrow in Provo at Fort Utah Park. This one is put on by Turning Point USA, and they're going to send people out canvassing, trying to get signatures on the petition. That they are really up against it. This is going to be a very difficult lift for them. So I don't think that they're going to bring back the collective bargaining this time, because I think that would make voters extremely mad. Elliot Nutter on TikTok says there's one in St. George. I'm tempted to go and hold a sign saying don't sign or something. There are a lot of people who are doing that, and they are very, it's been effective. At one point last week when I was tracking the numbers, they actually lost signatures. They went backwards in a number of districts. 4 districts, one day that they reported the new signature totals, they lost signatures in 4 Senate districts, and that's because people are taking their name off of these petitions. And I don't know how effective that's going to be. I mean, it's already been effective. I don't know how extensive it's going to be once we get past the February 15th deadline, which is a week from Sunday. That's when they have to turn in all of these petitions. So I don't know how extensive it's going to be once we get to that point. But there are a lot of people out there trying to get those to not sign the ballot initiative. And like I said, we'll go over the numbers more in depth in a little bit. But right now they're really struggling to get those signatures. But the thing that I want to talk about first, and clearly, again, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the chat. But I wrote this last night, that Republican members of Congress, two of Utah's Republicans in the House of Representatives, Representative Burgess Owens, Representative Celeste Malloy, along with a bunch of local Republican county council members or county officials, and there's one Republican sheriff, they filed a suit in federal court over this new map that was put in place by Judge Diana Gibson last year. And there's been a lot of questions, why are they doing this? How does this impact the Prop 4 initiative? How does this impact the appeal to the Utah Supreme Court? It's related, but it's not the same thing. And I think there's a lot of confusion because there's a lot of moving parts around this. So what happened last night is this coalition of Republican officials led by or I guess chief among them is Representative Burgess Owens, Representative Celeste Malloy. They filed a suit in federal court. Okay. And what they are seeking to block this map that was put in place by Judge Diana Gibson. They're suing Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson to keep her from putting this map in place. And what they're asking the judge to, and at the center of their complaint is that she used some authority that they claim that she does not have by putting this map in place. They're citing the U.S. Constitution, the Utah Constitution, that says state legislatures are in charge of the maps, and a judge has the authority to block an unconstitutional or an illegal map, but they don't have the authority to implement a map, to draw a map, to have somebody else draw a map. And that's why they're challenging this. And what they're asking is they are asking the judge to block this new map that puts a Democratic leaning district in Salt Lake County, centered mostly on Salt Lake County, all except the southwestern portion of the county. They're asking the federal court to block this map and then tell the legislature to draw a new map or to go back to the 2021 map that was in place and the one that the legislature passed in 2021. And there's some problems with that, and we'll get to that in a second. But part of the claims made by Malloy and Owens are that they don't know where they're supposed to be running. They're claiming that they were planning on running for re-election. Originally, they planned on running for re-election under the 2021 map. That map was thrown out. So then they were gearing up to run under the option C map that was put forward by the legislature. And that map was rejected by the judge because it violated Prop 4. She said it was an extreme partisan outlier. It did not follow the principles of Prop 4, so she rejected it. And instead, she took map 1 from the plaintiffs. And I'll try to bring those up here so we can take a look and all look at them together. But I'll need to, real quick, hang on. Oh yeah, I can do that. Okay, so we'll do that here in a second. Let me get this one here. Okay, so I figured that out. All right, so the first thing we're going to look at is the 2021 map. So as I change my, oh, that's not quite how I wanted that to look. We're going to fix this as we go. I did not expect that to look this small on the one of the feeds. So we'll just fix that here. Let me bring this over here, and then I'll bring this like that. Okay, so hopefully we can see these now. I just had to do a little bit of jerry-rigging there, but as you can see, make sure everybody's looking at that correctly. Yep, it looks like that's... Okay, so now everybody can see what we've got going on here with the maps. So this is the 2021 map, okay? And hopefully you can see my cursor here on the screen. This is the 2021 map that the judge tossed out. And the reason that the judge tossed this map out is it was the product of Prop 4, of the repeal of Prop 4. And that was, as I'm adjusting a couple of things here, sorry about that. It was the product of the repeal of Prop 4. So the legislature unconstitutionally repealed Prop 4. So this is the 2021 map that you're seeing on the screen right now. And as Judge Gibson ruled, the legislature unconstitutionally repealed Prop 4. And as part of that, this map that you're seeing on the screen right now, it is the fruit of that unconstitutional action. And that's why she threw it out, because the legislature unconstitutionally repealed Prop 4, which is the ballot initiative that was approved by voters in 2018. So she unconstitutionally threw that out. Or they said they unconstitutionally repealed it, so she threw this map out that you're looking at, okay? And then the next map, this is the map that the legislature came up with. This is the option C map. As you can see right here, District 2 is the western half of Salt Lake County and Tooele County. And then District 3 is the eastern half of Salt Lake County, which is right here, and it goes across to the border and then down south. So this is the option C map that the legislature passed. They submitted it to the judge, and the judge looked at it, realized their expert admitted under oath that he used partisan data to draw this map, which you're not allowed to do under Prop 4. There's no partisan data. Well, Sean Trenda, who drew the map, admitted that he used partisan data, and so she said that this was an extreme partisan outlier. They ran thousands of simulations, and this sort of map that we're looking at here, where all 4 of the districts would vote Republican, only showed up at the extreme outlying ends of those simulations. So this was a partisan outlier. And we'll talk about this map a little bit more in a second. So the map that the judge picked instead is this one. This is the plaintiff's map. And as you can see right smack dab in the middle in District 1, that is a Democratic-leaning district. And the reason we say that is because if you look at past election results, this District 1 would have voted for the Democratic presidential candidate in 2020 and 2024. Also would have gone for Evan McMullin over Mike Lee. There was no Democrat in that race, but he was an independent. So that's this is the map that the judge put in place. And this is the map that Burgess Owens and Celeste Malloy are suing to block. And as I broke it down, none of the current members of the Utah House of Representatives actually live in the district where they would represent. Under this map right here, Blake Moore lives in District 1, but he'll probably run up here in District 2. District 3 is Mike Kennedy and Celeste Malloy. I think Burgess Owens also lives in District 3. But nobody lives in District 4. And essentially, if this map stays in place, one of them is the odd man out. It's more than likely that District 1 right here in the center will elect a Democrat to Congress. That's why you've got so many Democrats running there. But this is the map that Celeste Malloy and Burgess Owens are suing to stop from going into effect. They're trying to block it. They want the legislature to draw a new map, or if they don't draw a new map, they're asking the judge to put the 2021 map back in place. The problem with that is the 2021 map, as I just explained, has already been declared unconstitutional. There's just no way that, well, I can't say there's no way. I'm not a lawyer. I like to pretend I know what I'm talking about from time to time. But it doesn't feel like the judge can pick the 2021 map in this federal lawsuit. The judge can't pick that because it was already found unconstitutional. It was put in place using a process that was unconstitutional. When the legislature repealed Prop 4, that was unconstitutional. So that's what they're asking the judge to do. Part of the claim is that they don't know where they're supposed to be campaigning. They have a limited time, limited amount of campaign money, and they don't know where to put those resources in their current which map they're going to be running on. So that's what they're asking for. The same argument could be made for the Democrats who have already jumped into the race thinking they're going to be running in that District 1. A number of the local officials are in on this suit because they claim that they have long-standing relationships with the members of Congress, and they're working on things to benefit their constituents with these members of Congress. And if they are forced to run in different districts, and that's going to throw that all out the window. Because one of the lead people on the lawsuit is Utah County Commissioner Amelia Powers Gardner, and she says that, for instance, she is working on a land swap bill to get a pedestrian bridge near Bridal Veil Falls, a land swap with the federal government, and if these members of Congress are shuffled around in their districts, then she's going to have to start that over. I highly doubt it, but at least that's the claim that they're making. So that's the federal lawsuit. Now, at the same time, you have the Utah Supreme Court that they're hearing the appeal from the Utah legislature over Judge Gibson's decision to put the map in place. So that's the second part. These two are related, but they're not the same thing. And then you have this petition effort that is essentially being run by the Utah Republican Party to put a repeal of Proposition 4 on the ballot. And the reason that they need to do that, is because the legislature repealed Prop 4 with SB 200, and that was found to be unconstitutional. The Utah Supreme Court says when the people pass a ballot initiative, when the people pass a law through a ballot initiative, then any changes that the legislature makes have to be targeted and limited. And that's not what happened when they wholesale repealed it. That's why you're hearing lawmakers complain about the Supreme Court creating super laws or super initiatives that can't be changed by the legislature. That's a little disingenuous. That's a disingenuous framing of it. What the Utah Supreme Court said is that the people have the equal authority to pass a bill as the legislature. And if the legislature is going to change it, they have to have a good reason. They have to have a really good reason. And if they don't have a good reason, then, then what they're doing is unconstitutional. And the legislature doesn't like that. And they can't repeal Prop 4. So that's why the Republican Party is trying to repeal Prop 4 at the ballot box using the same process that was used to pass Prop 4. If that makes any sense. Going through some of the questions on the chat. Former Democratic Representative Rosemary Lesser, who is running for re-election, running to regain her seat in HD10. She is on the chat tonight on Instagram. Welcome. She says it should not matter. They do not have to live within the district where they're running anyway. Exactly. They don't have to. Back at the start of this decade, well, actually, it started this century, back around 2000, when Jason Chaffetz was in Congress. When he was first elected, he did not live in his district. He lived just outside of his district. And that was extremely unusual. At the time, they did some research, and I think he was only the third person ever to live outside of his district who was serving in Congress. And that's like in the history of Congress. He was only the third person ever. Now it's pretty commonplace, especially here in Utah. Blake Moore did not live in his district when he was first elected. Burgess Owens, I think, still either doesn't live in his district or he is just inside the boundaries. So it's pretty commonplace. I think there's like 30 people now who don't live in their district who are serving in Congress. So they don't have to live there anyway, but they're trying to stop this map from going into place. Why? Because one of them is going to lose. Under the map, the 2021 map, they had extremely gerrymandered pro-Republican districts. They were R plus 20 something. And Democrats have almost zero chance. And so they're trying to block this because they know that one of them is going to be the odd man out, as I said. Nathan Detroit on Twitch says, do you have any thoughts or insight on why Mike Kennedy didn't sign on? Moore seems all set to keep going with his new CD2. I think that the reason Kennedy didn't sign on is because he's not, I don't think he had any argument. I mean, he could have made the argument that he didn't know where he was running. One of the things that Celeste Malloy says, and I'll bring up that map here again. Let me make that switch one more time. One of the things that Celeste Malloy claims in this map, and she's right, is that this 3rd congressional district, which you can see right here, that stretches across the entire southern part of the state, up the eastern part of the state, and up into Summit County, actually. She says it crams 17 counties into her district. And it's just a massive, massive district. And she's right. I mean, that's huge. The problem is What they're ignoring is this district here, there's the same number of people there as there are in District 1. District 1 has the same number of people. It's not as big, but it has the exact same number of people or within a very small margin of error. District 2, same number of people. District 4, same number of people. They also say that cities like Eagle Mountain, southern in Utah County, southern part of Salt Lake County are in rapidly growing areas. And by the time we get to the 2030 census, their vote will be diluted because there will be more people living there and they'll have less of a voice in Congress, which is kind of a crazy argument, because when you look at the 2021 map, which I have up on the screen right now, it split Salt Lake County into 4 pieces. And talk about diluting the vote of the most populous area in the state, Salt Lake County right there. That's why that area is one complete district. But they're claiming that, part of the reason why they need to block this map is because it's going to dilute the votes of these people, completely ignoring the fact that this map split Salt Lake County into 4 pieces among all 4 of the districts. I don't know how much that's going to hold water. I don't know how much of an impact that is going to make. So that is so there's 3 separate things happening right now. There's the Utah legislature's appeal of Judge Gibson's decision. That's in the Utah Supreme Court. There is the federal lawsuit from Celeste Malloy, Burgess Owens, and some Republican local officials. That's in federal court. And at the same time, the Utah Republican Party is trying to put a repeal of Prop 4 on the ballot. Now, a lot of people have said, what does this mean? What about the decision to pack the courts? The bill that the legislature rushed through in the first 2 weeks of the session. Governor Spencer Cox signed it into law on Saturday. What does that bill do? Does that just negate all of this? No, it doesn't. First of all, I think it's extremely unlikely that we're going to have 2 new Supreme Court justices in Utah by the time that they hear this appeal from the legislature over this ruling. So that doesn't negate anything. Packing the court is going forward. And also at the same time, they created a brand new court, a constitutional court that will hear challenges like this and take it out of the district courts, it's essentially just venue shopping. That's all it is. The legislature's creating a more friendly venue for them. Steve Merrill, who's actually running in that third congressional district under the new map, he corrects me, and he's right. He says it's actually 19 counties that are touched. We also touch Weber and Utah, 60% of the state. Yeah, that third congressional district is massive. And I think what's going to happen, or what could happen, is if the current map that Judge Gibson put in place stays for this election, there have been rumors that Kennedy might try to primary Celeste Malloy. Because I'm going to bring that map up again, just so we can talk. I can show you what I'm talking about. I like having visual aids, so let me bring that up here again. So Malloy lives down here. Okay, that's where she lives. Kennedy lives in Alpine, which is over in this area, probably right around there. So they're both in the district. Burgess Owens lives in Draper. Draper is, I think it might be inside District 1. He's not going to run in District 1. I think Owens would get smoked in District 1. I think any of these members of Congress would get smoked if this map stays in place, and that's why they're suing. It's not for sure, but that's my sense, and I think that's a lot of people's sense about what's going to happen there. But who's going to run over here? Does Kennedy jump from this here in Utah County? Does Kennedy jump from there over into District 4? I mean, he doesn't live too far from it, but it's kind of a weird ask if you think about it. And you get, I mean, as former Representative Lesser said, you're not going to see allegations of carpetbagging because nobody lives where they're supposed to here in Utah. So that's where things stand with this. Looking at some of the things people said in the chat, let me catch up on that. Logan Morris says they're using a judge to pick a map, even though their gripe is that a judge picked a map. Their gripe is that the judge picked a map that the legislature did not have a hand in. Their claim is that this map that was put in place by Judge Gibson, it didn't go through the regular process. There were no hearings. There was no public input. And the Utah Constitution specifically says that the legislature draws the map. That's what their claim is. Ethan Adams says, is there any indication the GOP AstroTurf money for repealing Prop 4 is running out? What he's talking about is this effort to put the repeal of Prop 4 on the ballot is completely funded by one organization called Securing American Greatness, and so far they've dropped $4.3 million into the effort. They've got a lot more money. They're a dark money group. We don't know who their donors are. They don't have to disclose that. They are part of the Donald Trump political machine. But they've spent a lot of money on this. And as I said earlier, we're only halfway there on the statewide. If they need more money, they will get it. As I said earlier, Turning Point USA is sending organizers in, trying to collect more signatures. Last week, I thought we were seeing a bump from the endorsement offered by President Donald Trump. President Trump endorsed the Prop 4 effort 2 weeks ago, urged people to sign it, and in the middle of the week, they had 3 straight days of increasing numbers of new signatures. In fact, one of the days was their most new signatures that they had ever added during the whole campaign. The problem is they hit Friday and fell off a cliff. That's when they lost signatures in some districts. And then Monday, they didn't have a great day. Today, they didn't have a great day. And they are running out of time. So is there any indication that they're running out of the AstroTurf money? They're going to have as much money as they need because this is a priority for the Republicans in Congress and for the Trump political machine. Can you imagine what's going to happen if control of Congress comes down to this one congressional district? Can you imagine? The last time we had a really when we have competitive races here in Utah, there's a lot of outside spending that comes in. Both of the candidates will have a ton of outside money. They'll raise a bunch of money. And, money will flood into the state. It's good for broadcasters and people who run advertising. You'll get tired of it because you'll see the ads everywhere. But if control of Congress comes down to a seat in Utah that could flip, that would be something. Former Representative Lesser says, I'm worried about a packed court being in place before March. I don't think that can happen. If you just look at the timeline, they're really going to have to push to make that happen. And it would have to be soon because the filing date, candidates are going to start filing to run under whatever map is in place on March 9th. That's our drop dead date now. Remember, I don't know if you joined our, when I was doing lives a couple of months ago, I kept saying the deadline, the drop dead date is January 2nd. That's when candidates start filing for office. What did the legislature do in December? They moved the filing date. They moved it back. So now we're sitting at March 9th. That's the filing date. That's when candidates can start filing for office, and courts will be very, very reluctant to step in once candidates are starting to file to run for office. They're already collecting signatures, but the legislature got around that by saying that you could get those signatures from any district. It didn't have to be in the district you're running in. Now, there's always the possibility that the legislature could move the dates again. The primary is set for June 23rd. That's our primary date. It used to be back in September. So they have some wiggle room. I know that party conventions have already been set for April. I don't think the Republicans would complain if the legislature decides to move these dates again. That would be a real interesting thing to do if they're trying to give themselves more time, moving the dates again, and I think they open themselves up for another lawsuit. But that's a possibility. So I don't think that there's going to be a packed court in place by March, because we don't have a lot of time. If you look at the calendar, $22 working days. There are 20, I just had to do some quick math, but there are 22 working days left before the filing date starts. And I have no idea. And in that time, you would have to have 2 nominees selected by the Judicial Nomination Commission. And then they would have to have a public comment period, because there's always a public comment period. And then the legislature would have to have a confirmation hearing, and then they would have to be confirmed in the Senate. And I just don't think that there's any time. There's not enough time to get these 2 new justices in place for that. So I understand your concerns. I just don't think that's going to happen. Let's see, going back to some of the questions on TikTok. If we challenge the constitutionality of the new law, would it be heard by the new constitutional court? I don't know what the Constitution, I don't know which law you are referring to, random on TikTok. But yes, any challenge to Utah law that's on constitutional basis would be heard by the new constitutional court. But that court won't get going until January 1st of 2027. So we've got some time before that happens. But after that, that's when all of the cases pending in Utah district courts or at the Utah Supreme Court would be pulled back to this court rather than a district court. So someone is asking, is there any place that I can look to see if my name is not on the list? They post it every single day, vote.utah.gov. You have to look under, there's a tab that's information for voters, more information for voters, I believe what it is. Let me pull it up so I can tell you how to get there. Down at the bottom, it says additional resources for voters. You click on that. You have to click on initiatives and referenda. Then you'll see the 2025 statewide initiative and referendum information, repeal of the Independent Redistricting Commission and Standards Act direct initiative. Then you click on that and you can see the list of signers. It's updated every day. There has been some anecdotal evidence. People made some claims that their names are showing up in the on the list and they didn't sign, or when our county clerks are contacting them saying that they're trying to verify their signature and they said that they hadn't signed. Now that's all anecdotal. I'm trying to flesh that out. Looking at some other comments. Tyler Peters on TikTok says, do they have a count number? Well, I've been doing that every single day. I've been following that every single day. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about where we are in the Prop 4 repeal process. These are the latest numbers. Let me bring it up on the screen for you all. These are the latest numbers from the state. This is the interactive map. You will find it on my website, utahpolitics.news. And as you can see here, the statewide number they have to hit is 140,748 signatures. And right now they are 48.24% of the way there. They still need 72,854 signatures. They have 12 days left to collect them. If you divide this number by that number, you get 6,071. That's what they need to add every single day in order to hit the statewide number. This last number over here that says working days remaining to verify signatures, 23. After the signatures are turned in, clerks will have 21 days to verify them. So the clerks can theoretically be verifying these signatures all the way to March 7th. That's the last day that they have to verify signatures. I suspect we will know long before then whether they're even close. But you can find this interactive map. I update it every single day on my website, utahpolitics.news. They've only, not only do they have to have the signature totals statewide, but they also need to get signatures from 8% of registered voters in 26 of Utah's 29 Senate districts. Right now, they've only hit that number in 2. It's the districts that are outlined in gold. District 27, District 29. They are, they did make some progress today because they're above 50% of the signature total now in 10 more districts. Yesterday, they were only above 50% in 4. So now they're above 50% in 10. But as I've crunched the numbers, and I'll show you that here, as I've crunched the numbers, even if they get this number here, even if they get the goal, 6,071 signatures a day, every day through until February 15th, if they add that and hit that statewide number right on the nose, they're not going to meet the district numbers. In fact, these are the districts that would fail to reach the 8% if they meet that pace of 6,071 new verified signatures per day. District 7, by the way, that is Senate President Stuart Adams' district, and it is one of the lowest in the state. The lowest is District 14. That's Senator Stephanie Pitcher, a Democrat. But a lot of these are Republican districts. And at that pace, at 6,071 new verified signatures every day, these are the districts that would not meet the goal. And they have to get 26. They can only afford to fall short in 3 of them. Right now they're at 2. They're above 50% in 10 more. That's 12. That would leave them 14 short. In fact, at this pace, they would hit, by my calculations, 12 districts. Not enough to get on the ballot. So they are really struggling. They're having a really hard time hitting that goal. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if there's something you want to know about, feel free to leave your questions in the chat, and I will get to it post haste. I really appreciate everybody tuning in this evening. I really appreciate everyone joining. And oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I just got an email from somebody here in Utah who's one of the worst conspiracy theorists in the state. And apparently this person has forgotten that he hates my guts because he's trying to get me to cover something. I'm not going to give them any shout out time, but I've tangled with this person for years and years and years, and they run something that they like to pretend is a news site. But it's terrible. It's conspiracy and just awful stuff. And apparently they've forgotten that I have, that they hate my guts. So had to take a little drink there. Let's see what else is happening on the chat. I'll refresh this over here so I can see what is. Okay, going to look at some of the questions and comments left here by our viewers on TikTok. Jack Clark says, do you see that the lawsuit that Malloy and Owens filed over the new maps going somewhere? I don't know. Again, we are right up against the time. We're running out of time. I'm sure that the federal courts will try to move in an expeditious manner, but they are filing the state. I don't know if the plaintiffs in the map in the case that the plaintiffs in the case that's currently in the Utah Supreme Court, I don't know if they file to intervene. I don't know if they try to intervene on behalf of the defendants. I don't know any of that. I don't know if that's how that's going to play out. I'll certainly be watching it, and as soon as I know something, I'll let you know. But I can't predict what the court is going to do. Steve Merrill says, what are the chances any of the current congressional delegation goes against Trump with the Epstein files? I have not seen any indication of that. I mean, it's certainly not going to be Senator Mike Lee. I mean, his best friend, Elon Musk, is all over the Epstein files. I don't know. I believe that all 4 of our, I'll have to look this up, but I believe all 4 of the House members voted against the discharge petition to move out or to release the files. Perhaps they voted for it. I can't remember. I'll have to look that up. I do know that when it went to the Senate, it was just passed by unanimous consent. So there was no recorded vote on that. But I don't know if they're going to cross Trump on that. Elliot Nutter says Trevor Lee emailed you. No, Trevor Lee doesn't run a website that's like a fake that pretends to be a news website. Yeah. Let's see. What else is happening in the news? And again, if you have any questions, any comments, I'd love to hear what you're thinking about tonight. Did you see that Representative Trevor Lee's bill to ease vaccine requirements? Well, to make it easier to get a vaccine exemption in schools, it died in a House committee on a tie vote on Friday. That bill, right now, if a parent wants to get an exemption to the vaccine requirements, they have to watch, and it's mostly an online educational module that talks about the benefits of vaccines, what could happen if there's a disease outbreak to unvaccinated children. The whole thing takes between 15 and 30 minutes. They have to watch it once per child. And some people were talking about, one person said it takes about 15 to 30 minutes, but you have to watch this module in order to access the exemption, the exemption form. Well, Representative Lee's bill, HB 152, took the educational part out of it because it as he claims, it puts up too many roadblocks, too many impediments to people getting these vaccine exemptions. There were a whole bunch of medical professionals who testified against the bill. And then the people who testified in favor of the bill were the usual crowd. Gail Ruzicka was there. A gentleman by the name of Neil Schultz got up and talked about, he cited Dr. Paul Thomas, who is an anti-vaccine advocate. He wrote a book. He's written a couple of books. His latest one is called Vax Facts. It's all anti-vaxxer stuff. This person by the name of Neil Schultz got up and said that the quote was, in his book Vax Facts, Dr. Thomas studied 10,500 children and found that unvaccinated children were far healthier. First of all, no. Actually, Dr. Thomas's medical license was suspended for a time after he wrote that in Oregon. But I've also been told that this Neil Schultz, who got up and made that comment in committee, is actually the brother of Speaker Mike Schultz. I'll have to check into that, but I've got a pretty good source who's telling me that that is Speaker Mike Schultz's brother. Emma Jolo says on YouTube, can you just let it play and walk away, or do they test you? There are questions. Part of it plays and then you have to answer questions. Then part of it plays and answer questions. So it's interactive. You have to pay attention. So they can't just let this vaccine exemption. But the bill right now is dead. It got a 6-6 tie vote in the committee. 3 Republicans joined with 3 Democrats to vote against it. It was Representative Cheryl Acton, Representative Steve Ellison, and Representative Ray Ward voted against the bill, and 2 people were not present, and so that's why the bill got a 6-6 tie vote, and it died. Now, it could come back, but as it stands right now, the bill is dead. How many of you saw my story last week that former Representative Jason Chaffetz is being floated as a possible successor to Kristi Noem as Secretary of Homeland Security? How many of you saw that one? That was an interesting thing. His name has come up a couple of times in the last... his name has come up a couple of times in the last 2 months or so. Politico floated it in December, and then right at the end of January, earlier this week, I guess it was last week, it was floated by Real Clear Politics. 3 names are coming up. It is Chaffetz, EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, and I'm forgetting who the third one is. Let me look at that real quick. Oh, former Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin. Those are 3 names who are being floated as possible replacements for Kristi Noem at Homeland Security. And that would be interesting because everybody knows that Chaffetz is gearing up to run for governor in 2026. And I don't know how that would impact his plans. He's got a really sweet gig right now. He's on Fox News. He flies to New York a couple of times a week to be in studio. He has to do hits at like 5 a.m. here in Utah when he does them from his home. He's written 5 books. A number of them have been New York Times bestsellers. He has his podcast, Jason in the House. It's a pretty sweet gig that he's got right now. And I don't know if he'd be willing to give that up to become Homeland Security, especially when it's pretty clear he's getting ready to run for governor in 2028. I actually texted with him a little bit after I saw that story. I can't talk about what he said because it was off the record. But my sense is he might be thinking about it, but I can't say for sure. He was very cagey. And as we know, Governor Spencer Cox is not running for another term in 2028. Phil Lyman has already said that he's going to be running. We know that Jason Chaffetz is gearing up and raising money. He's been doing things that are very campaign coded, making appearances, making speeches. Mike Schultz, Speaker of the House, he desperately wants to run for governor. He's been getting himself ready as well. So I don't know if Chaffetz would want to do that and become the Secretary of Homeland Security in the Trump administration. Let me see if there are any more questions or comments. If you have something you'd like to know, please leave it in the chat, something you want to talk about. I'll try to get to it. Someone says, please let us also be aware of who the conspiracist is. I'm not gonna give this person any time. I will respond to them privately, and then they will have a tantrum because somehow they think that we're aligned and we have they think that we're aligned, and that is definitely not the case. But they like to pretend that they're news here in Utah, which is part of the reason why I do what I do, because I'm trying to counter that. Most of their stuff is on Facebook. I'll say it there. If you DM me, I'll tell you in private, but I'm not going to say it here on the show, so you can avoid them. If you want to really know who it is, send me a DM on whatever platform you're watching, or send me an email, and I'll be happy to tell you then, and who to avoid. Did you see the story from? It's been reported a lot of places, but it is the story that Representative Candace Perucci is pushing HB 452, which would basically allow people to conceal carry weapons at like jazz games. The bill requires any private entity that gets state money, more than $1 million in public funding, to allow concealed firearm permit holders. That would definitely be the Utah Mammoth and the Utah Jazz, because they're getting a bunch of money to renovate the Delta Center and build the area downtown. I wonder what the NBA and the NHL would have to say about that. I'm sure that they would have some thoughts. I mean, the NBA right now explicitly says no guns, no firearms at their league games. And NHL arenas have policies prohibiting guns. But for some reason, people should be able to bring, if you have a concealed carry permit, which is bizarre because we're a constitutional carry state, meaning you don't have to have a permit. That's one of the things they fought for years and years. It was one of the first things that Governor Cox did that was something. It was one of the first things he did that went against the Herbert administration. When Gary Herbert was in office, they kept trying to pass this so-called constitutional carry, which meant you would be able to carry a gun without a concealed carry permit. And every year that came up, Gary Herbert threatened to veto, and there was always a face-off with the legislature, and the legislature backed down. Cox signed that bill into law. But now you would have to have a concealed carry permit to bring a gun to a Jazz game or an NHL game or on campus somewhere. Elliot Nutter says the only heat we need in hockey is heated rivalry, right? I don't know. That just seems like a not great idea. That's just my honest reaction. People are drinking at those games, and then you're going to throw guns into the mix, and people getting mad, and I mean, fights in the stands. There's so many things that could go wrong. But that's the bill, HB 452 from Representative Candace Perucci, and she is a member of House leadership, so she can, she's got some juice behind this. So we'll see how far it gets. On Facebook, Philip Graves says, do you see Becky Edwards running for governor in 2028 as an independent? The reality is Becky Edwards has lost several times now. She lost the U.S. Senate race. She lost the special election that after Representative after Celeste, she lost the Republican nomination to Celeste Malloy in 2023. I don't see how she can brush that off and run again. I don't. I mean, that's going to be a really difficult ask. Usually when you lose a couple of races, it's really hard to shake that loser label. So that's going to be hard. I think it's just going to be really hard for her to do that. Journey Girl on YouTube says, is there a viable Democrat who could run for governor? I don't think it has anything to do with viability. It's just that this state does not vote for Democrats in statewide races. That's part of the reason why there was a huge fight over clearing the field for Evan McMullin in 2022 to run against Mike Lee. And as I've said before, that almost worked. It was the closest statewide race we have had in decades. There was a point with about 4 weeks to go in that race where Mike Lee was going to lose. His team thought he was going to lose. They were freaking out. That is why Mike Lee went on the Tucker Carlson program when he was still on Fox News and begged Mitt Romney to endorse him. That's the reason why he did that. Because he knew that he was in big trouble. There have been great Democratic candidates in the past, but their message just does not play in Utah. Utahns statewide are not buying what they are selling. And you can't, and the other part of this equation is you can't win just by appealing to Democrats. For a Democrat to win in most races, you have to get almost all of the Democratic voters to vote for you. You have to get a significant number of independents to vote for you. And then you need to get Republicans to vote for you. And that's even the case. I'm going to bring it up again. Visual aid time. That is even the case here on this map. This district, District 1, yes, it's blue. Yes, it leans Democratic, okay? But Republicans are still the largest voting bloc in this district. This district is about 35% Republicans, 25% Democrats, and about 30% independents. So Democrats are still third. So what's going to have to happen is, in this district, there are a lot of Republicans who are open to voting for a Democrat. And the reason this is blue is because that's what we saw in 2020 and 2024. This district would have gone for the Democratic candidate by double digits in those elections. But that's because there are a lot of Republicans who are willing to cross the aisle and vote for a Democrat. And that's what you see here. So whoever wins the nomination in this district is going to have to be able to appeal to Republicans and independents, because you can't just whip the Democratic vote because there's not enough of them. That's just the math. That's been that has been the formula for years in this state, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. Now, I think people are mad. I think that people are very mad at the games that the legislature is playing. That is my sense of what's happening with Prop 4, and the reason why so many people signed on so fast to the referendum to overturn the union busting bill. I think all of that, it's a sense that people are mad. And I think Republicans need to be very careful about the things that they put on the ballot. They want to put this repeal of Prop 4 on the ballot. Looking at their struggles of getting the signatures, I don't know if that passes. I think people like having the idea of an independent redistricting commission. We've never had it happen. They also want to put a constitutional amendment that would allow them to repeal that would give them the last say when it came to laws passed by the public through a ballot initiative. It's the thing they tried to do with Amendment D in 2024. I don't know if that passes. I think people are angry. Troy Riley 477 on TikTok says, do you think the swings we are seeing nationwide would allow any Democrats to pick up the typical R voters? I'm going to bring up my visual aids again. This is the map that was passed by lawmakers last year. This is the option C map. Now, I just colored it straight red. I didn't put the shades of red to show just how red they are. But District 2 and District 3 are not as Republican as District 1 and District 4. And as I've said many times before, I've had Republicans who are currently working on campaigns with current members of Congress who are Republicans here in Utah. And they said that this map could be an absolute disaster for Republicans if it goes into effect. This district here, District 2, if you look at what happened, if you put the election results from 2020 and 2024 onto this map, District 2 here would have gone for Donald Trump, but only by about 6 points. District 3 would have also gone for Donald Trump in those two elections, but only by about a point. And if we get a wave election, and right now, it looks like it's shaping up to be a wave election, which means, Democrats are going to overperform across the board. Every special election we've seen, Democrats are overperforming. They just picked up a state Senate seat in Texas that has been Republican for 35 years. And it was looks like we've frozen here for a second. I don't know why. Hopefully you're not frozen on the stream here, but it looks like we might be. Well, that might stop some things here. I think we might be frozen. Yep, I believe that we might have frozen everything here, and I'm not sure why. Close down some things. We might have hit the buffer. Oh, nope. Somebody says we're all good on the stream, so it's just frozen on my camera. Okay, hang on. I'll bring back over here then. Okay, just mashing buttons. So I'll continue talking because apparently people says it's still good on the stream. So anyway, if you look at that district, if you look at that map, if we get a wave election in 2026, those two districts, District 2 and District 3, are the kind of districts that flip in a wave election. That's how Ben McAdams was put into office the first time. When he won in 2018, oh, it says it's still frozen, but we can hear you. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop this real quick, and then I will rejoin and see if I can get that to work. So hang on just a moment. Let me stop this here, and I'll try to rejoin. Okay, looking to see if this works again. Looks like TikTok, I'm back online. There we go. Instagram, looks like we're all back online now. Okay, so we're back. We're back online. My camera froze. I just had to restart my software. I try not to have everything running in the background, but apparently I did. So, okay, we're good to go. So, as I was saying, let me bring up my... if we get a wave election in 2026, District 2, which was Trump plus 6, and District 3, Trump plus 1, those are exactly the kind of districts that could flip if we get a wave election nationally. Because the wave goes across the country. And what we're seeing right now, every indication we are seeing is that a wave election is brewing. Now, don't count on it. Things could change between now and November. If you remember, January was the longest 5 years of my life. So things could change. But if this map right here, this map is the option C map passed by the legislature. If this map goes back in place, I know there are Republican strategists who work on campaigns who are very worried about this map because you could get two Democrats elected to the state. But apparently the legislature is all in on trying to get this map in place. This is the map that they want. Let me see. I'll try to look at a couple of comments here before we wrap up for this evening. Looking at some of the comments here. Appreciate everyone letting me know that the stream came back. Over on TikTok, someone says, with all the people leaving the LDS Church and changing their views could help Utah become less Republican. Maybe. I mean, demographic change is inevitable, right? That's going to happen. Things are going to get a lot more interesting after in the 2032 election. And I know that that's a ways away, but Utah is one of the states that is projected to get another seat in Congress. So we'll have 5 seats in Congress. And if we have an independent redistricting commission in place, then they will draw the maps for that. But not only the maps for Congress, they'll draw the maps for state Senate, state House, and for state school board. If the independent redistricting survives. As we've talked about tonight, they're having trouble getting signatures. There are people who are claiming, I've heard a lot of people say that they believe that the Republicans have enough districts, but they're just have enough signatures to qualify. They're just holding them back so they can drop them all at the end. And possibly maybe they are holding back a bunch of signatures. That's what people are saying. But if you look at what they're doing, they're not acting like a group that is holding back a bunch of signatures. Turning Point USA is coming to the state to help try to collect enough signatures. They're not acting like a campaign that's confident that they have enough signatures. Will they get there? Who knows? Right now, they're really struggling. They're less than 50%. Kavotha on Twitch says, why is the legislature so hard on repealing Prop 4? It is really hard for a Democrat to win in the state as it is. They don't want Prop 4. It's not about the congressional districts for them. It's about the state Senate and state House districts. Because the way that the lines have to be drawn is you cannot consider where any of the incumbents live. Now, every time that they draw the maps, there's always lawmakers who are put in the same district with another lawmaker, but that's usually intentional. They won't say it's intentional, but it's intentional. Back in the 2011 redistricting cycle, the House had really soured on Representative Fred Cox. He had ruffled a lot of feathers. A lot of people, he really, a lot of Republican members were very upset with him. He'd ruffle a lot of feathers. And so his was one of the districts that got combined with another district. In 2022, Suzanne Harrison was in the House of Representatives in the Draper area, and her district got combined. This is in 2021, and her district got combined with a Republican. So, I think she decided to run for county council instead, because she knew that she was put in a district that she was not going to be able to win. That's how they get rid of members that they don't like, when there's enough Republicans that they can mash into the area. But Proposition 4 makes it so that you can't consider where an incumbent lives. So even the Speaker of the House could be put in the same district as somebody else. And they don't want that. They like to control drawing the lines. They like to choose their voters. So that's part of the reason why they are so hell-bent on overturning Prop 4 and repealing Prop 4. Yeah, sure, it's to make it harder for Democrats to win, but it's also to make it easier for incumbents to win. A lot easier when you can pick your own voters. Nathan Detroit says, why would they hold back signatures? Isn't that exactly contrary to the law they passed to allow rolling submissions to avoid Phil Lyman types crying conspiracy? That I think is for candidates, actually. They might be holding back signatures to make a big splash. I don't buy that theory. There's other people who says that they're holding back signatures to put pressure on county clerks so that they don't have enough time to thoroughly vet the signatures. That sounds rather conspiratorial. The clerks have 21 days after they're turned in to verify these signatures. And don't forget, there's also a period of time where people can remove their names from signatures. We've already seen it happen. Last week, there was a day where 4 Senate districts lost signatures because people were removing their names from the petitions. And that can continue past the February 15th. That is the reason why the Count My Vote ballot initiative, which would have gotten rid of the caucus and convention system, in 2018, it had enough signatures to qualify for the ballot. But opponents organized a campaign to get people to remove their names, and they got like 100 people across 2 Senate districts to take their names off, and then they fell below the threshold and they did not qualify for the ballot. So that's another part of this. So we're not done with this even when we hit the 15th or the 7th of March. I think you have 30 days from the time it's posted online. I think that's what the state law says. Kavotha on Twitch says, so they can use redistricting to draw people out of their seat rather than putting up a person that could win. It happens. It happens a lot. A lot of this is done behind the scenes, and there are, and when you get to the congressional level, if you look at what happened, Chris Stewart in Congressional District 2, before the redraw in 2021, there was an area of the avenues that was in his congressional district where he just got slaughtered. Like that blue area, it was up by Sunnyside Avenue. And if you look at the election results precinct by precinct, he would just get absolutely slaughtered in that district. And that's one of the things he fought to have removed from the map when they redrew it in 2021. And if you look at it, they cut that out, and I think they moved it into the district that's represented by Blake Moore now. So there's a lot of wheeling and dealing going on behind the scenes when they draw these maps. And what Prop 4 does is it takes the legislature out of that process. Because at its heart, Prop 4 is, should voters choose their representatives or should representatives choose their voters? And the process we had before the judge put Prop 4 back in place was representatives were choosing their voters. That's what all of this was about. All right, last call for questions or comments. We'll do this again later this week. If you want to know when, sign up for my newsletter. I send out an email blast saying, hey, we'll do a live stream at this time. So people will be able to, if you want to be a part of the next one, want to know when we're doing this again, sign up for my newsletter. Just go to utahpolitics.news. The newsletter's free. Most of my journalism is free, but I'm an independent journalist. I'm gonna hold that thought for just a second. Kavotha says you have an excellent collection of shirts. I love this shirt. I got this shirt right before the COVID pandemic. Paul Reubens, Pee Wee Herman, one of my favorite performers on the planet, he was doing a tour to celebrate, I believe, the 40th anniversary of Pee Wee's Big Adventure. And the very first stop on that tour was up at Kingsbury Hall at the University of Utah, and I was in the audience, and that's where I bought this shirt. And just a couple of weeks later, the pandemic hit, and the tour was canceled, and then Paul Reubens unfortunately passed away. So I feel extremely fortunate that I was there. He came out and he answered questions afterwards. It was a packed house. It was so much fun. That was a great, that was such a great night. But yes, I enjoy, I enjoy my collection of t-shirts. I think I have hundreds of them. I try to wear them as much as I can, but there are certain ones I keep coming back to. And I pay for all of them. Nobody sends me these. I don't ask for people to do it. I did have the one last week, the yellow one that looks like the Gadsden flag, but it says, actually, I lick boots. That one came from a company that I love called Raygun. They're in Kansas. They do all sorts of really cheeky and hilarious shirts. So I enjoy that. So anyway, last question of the night from Nathan Detroit on Twitch says, if Gibson's ruling stands, do you have any sense of what's going to happen 2031 with redrawing Utah legislative districts? It would be up to the independent commission unless lawmakers can find a way to change that. It would be up to the independent commission. The independent commission would draw the legislative districts, all 75 House districts, all 29 Senate districts. And when you look at the Senate map, I mean, there are some massive districts, but that's because in order to encompass some of these rural areas, they have to be huge to have the same number of people, because that's what they have to do. They have to have the same number of people in the districts. So yes, it would be up to the independent commission if Gibson's ruling stands, and we don't know. So We'll be doing this again this week. If you want to know when, sign up for my newsletter. It's at utahpolitics.news. It's free. I send out an email blast saying, hey, we're going to do a live stream. These are the channels that we'll be on. And I love that you guys tune in. I love having you on board for that. I am an independent journalist. That means I am self-employed. I am solely responsible for everything on the website. I do all the graphics, I do all the writing, I do all the reporting, I do the podcasts, I produce my lives. And the people who make that possible are my subscribers. You can sign up to become a subscriber, $5 a month. It gets you some extra subscriber-only articles. I've got some great stickers. You get access to our Discord, where we talk about things that are going on in the news. And you make this possible. In fact, this is our newest sticker. Let me bring that up so people can see it here. It says, corporate media sucks, support independent journalism, and then it's got my logo on it. This is a subscriber exclusive. If you're a subscriber, you can have one of these. And if you want one and you're a subscriber, email me and I'll send one to you. And I designed that, by the way, and the 100% me. Pretty happy about that. So anyway, if you're a subscriber on the stream tonight, send me an email and I'll get one of these in the mail to you. One of these bad boys in the mail. You can also, if you don't want a subscription, that's fine. I have a tip jar. Every little bit helps me continue what I'm doing. And that's the only way that I would have this. I put on my website, we are journalist owned, we are journalist operated, we don't have any corporations, no billionaires, nobody telling me what I can and can't write. I don't have to worry about pissing off powerful people because I am accountable to my audience. And that's the only way that I would have. That's the way that I want it. It's incredibly gratifying to me. So anyway, that's going to do it for this evening, everybody. I am going to edit. I'm going to lightly edit this tomorrow and put it out as a podcast. If you want to listen to it, it'll be archived on YouTube, obviously, but I'll put an edited version up on YouTube and an edited one as a podcast. The podcast is called Special Session with Brian Schott. You can find it there, subscribe to that, and then you'll get the podcast version of this in your feed. Anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for joining tonight. I'm sorry I couldn't get to everybody's questions. We'll talk about it more later this week when we do another live stream. Until then, everybody stay safe. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your attention tonight. And we will talk to you again soon.